Welcome to your awakening. Please take care as your reality is adjusted.
Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome back once again. Greetings, salutations, well met, fellow hail. So it was being a bit slow. It was lagging then while it was doing the screen sharing. So I was waiting for things to happen so I could click the stop button and whatever, as in the stop screen sharing button. But yes, right, okay, got chat box, live chat box. Hello to everyone in the chat room. I'll come back in just a moment, say hello once I've got my screen sorted out. Yes, good evening, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome back once again to another edition of Sol Excalibre on this moon day evening in the UK. The sun's still up though, so I've still got curtains open. It might end up getting a bit dark in here by the time I've finished waffling, but we'll see how it goes. And big shout out to Society of the Spectacle in the chat room. Hello, mate. Hope you're doing well. I'm guessing the internet cafe you're in doesn't have Skype and whatever again, so you can't connect. But thanks for joining in. I hope you're all right. Let's just read through your comments, see what you said. Cafe closes at 9. Right, okay. No worries, mate. But yeah, I saw your messages from before about May the 11th and all that lot. So hopefully the internet cafes will be back open again where you are, so you'll be able to get connected and join in again. You know, you're welcome. I've been sending you the invites on Skype anyway, just in case you were able to get connected, but that's cool. And we're going to hopefully find out towards the end of this week. I'm not sure if it's going to be Thursday, which will be the 7th, won't it? Yeah. I'm not sure if it's going to be the Thursday or Sunday, which would be the 10th or the 9th. Look at my calendar quick. The 10th, yeah. We should hopefully have further word from the officialdom as to whether the lockdown is going to carry on or not. And I'm guessing it's going to be similar in Spain, because it seems to be a lot of the European nations, the NATO nations, the EU superstate nations seem to have been following the same timeline in lockstep. Funny that, isn't it? There's that phrase again, lockstep. Look up the Rothschild Foundation document, which includes that scenario that they call lockstep. And oh yeah, all these nations, all these countries seem to be hitting the same time frame, and they seem to be enacting the same policies. But there's no global conspiracy, folks. Oh no! If you say anything like that, you're a crazy person. Yeah, I might be a bit sarcastic. I'm often a bit sarcastic when we're talking about. I might be this week. No, that's pretty much a standard. But anyway, before we get into it, hello to everyone in the chat room. Thanks for joining in. John T.I., hello. And the Rebel, hello. Manos Mule, hello. Wagwan. Lots of Tatro, hello, mate. Hope you're well. And So South, hello. In Like the Wind. Have you already read the title in the info box? Alan McVicker, hello. Big Owl. I'm scrolling down. Tuzzy, hello. You just eating your TWA? I guess you mean T. That was probably a quick type and you missed the E and hit the W instead. I hope that's the misspelling you did and that there's not meant to be a T at the end of that. But anyway, yes. Wagwan. Let's talk about what's been going on over the week. And why this week I put in the subtitle, The New World Order. Pull it, not my finger. Yeah, the usual kind of cheesy phrase, and pull my finger. No, not my finger. Pull it. That might not make a lot of sense until I get into explaining myself as to why I put that in there. But as to the other things, maybe it will just make much more simple sense, if I can say that clearly, if I put this up as a screen share. I've made the point a few times over the last few weeks how the terminology of the new normal is deliberate Orwellian doublespeak to disguise or attempt to disguise, really, for those people that are at least thinking enough to be able to look at this situation and think about the kind of language that's being thrown at them, is an attempt to disguise the reality that they are changing normality. And if something is not the normal, then that means it used to be abnormal. Yeah, that's the two definitions, the two, because you need that dualistic Hegelian opposite. If something's normal, then what isn't normal is considered abnormal. So if they're talking about bringing in the new normal, then that means it used to be considered abnormal. Otherwise, they wouldn't need to relabel it as normal. So them saying this is the new normal means, the kind of reality that 6 months ago, maybe I should say a year ago, because we're going to be hitting 6 months-ish soon. A year ago, you would have considered what we're suggesting to be completely abnormal, but now we're going to tell you it's normal. And I tried to make this point in different ways. I did the one episode titled "You Are the New Abnormal." I think I mentioned like the comment I put under the True Stream video that they put up a while ago. That was a quote from Aldous Huxley about most people in society think they're normal, but actually they're just well adjusted to an abnormal environment. And that's deliberate because we've made them that way. That's what he's basically saying in that statement. He's talking about how the majority of people grow up into life and go about their day-to-day in society thinking what they're doing is perfectly normal, but that's only because they've been given a certain definition of normality. So if they tell you it's normal to eat babies and you grow up experiencing that environment as supposed normality, then as far as you're concerned, if somebody comes from another land and says, "What are you doing?" You say, I'm eating a baby. It's perfectly normal. What are you on about? And he was expressing that use of language and the manipulation of people psychologically and spiritually to be living in such a way that they're unaware of what is being done to them and around them to affect the environment that they live in, that they share with each other, that they contribute to, that they help to build. And a lot of that is done purely through that indoctrination process. So anyway, yes, connecting it to some of the stuff that's been going on recently, we are now in the third week that I mentioned a couple of episodes ago. I did the one episode called 3 Weeks to Freedom, because here in the UK, the government talking heads, what's his name, Mankycock, made the announcement that, in 3 weeks, we're going to start reducing the lockdown. We'll let you out again. You'll be allowed out of your prison sentence, etc., etc. Well, we're coming into that third week now, which is more than likely why they are suggesting that later in the week, either the 7th or the 11th, as I mentioned earlier, they're going to announce the beginning of the easing of the lockdown. If you look at some of the official announcements they've been putting out, they are careful with their rhetoric. They're deliberate. They're politicians and their scripts are written for them. Their talking points are written for them by nudge units, behavioral modification departments, which is why last week I mentioned the mind space document. If you don't know about that, look it up. Just do a search for mindspace.pdf. Tazzy shared a link for it last week in the chat. Check out that document, and that's just a surface level of the kind of stuff that they do. So yeah, the politicians putting out this carefully worded rhetoric that, oh well, you know, we might start easing the lockdown. Of course, it's going to depend on what's happening at the time and the numbers and what our technocrats tell us we're allowed to do in this new technocracy. And it might not be a complete rescinding of the lockdown. It might not be a completely open, you know, you're allowed to go back and live life normally again. No, it's going to be the new normal. So they might allow you out for an extra hour a day and stuff like that, you know, ambiguous wording so that they can move the goalposts when they feel they want to or need to fit their agenda. So the new normal should maybe, hopefully, be announced later this week for us here in the UK. Oh, I've just remembered, I forgot. Send an invite to, if I can click on that. Sorry, talk amongst yourselves for 2 seconds while I do something that I forgot to do at the beginning, just in case. I know he's not often online on the Skype, but if he is, be cool if he wants to join in. This is me remembering to send invites to people. So, yes, so we will find out later this week here in the UK how we're going to progress into the summer for this new normal. And please remember, I mentioned this last week, we have now pretty much come to the end of the season of flu, the flu season. So a lot of the claims they may make about how, oh, look, folks, the lockdown worked. Look, the case numbers are going down. The numbers of deaths we're telling you today have reduced. Isn't that great? It's because we were successful in reducing the spread from the lockdown. No, it's just because we're coming to the end of the seasonal flu, the naturally occurring seasonal flu. So therefore, naturally, the numbers will be going down. Because this whole situation is based on a scam of them relabeling what is the flu. And I will explain that as we go on, because I know one of their big aggressive pushbacks with this spreading of information and freely speaking about things and questioning stuff is that you're not allowed to say that it's just like the flu. It's just like the flu. You're not allowed to say that. Think of all the people that are dying. Oh, you horrible, evil murderer. It's not like the flu. It is the flu. That's all it is. It is the flu. Now, I'm only saying this after many weeks now, months of looking at various information that has been coming out from different sides of the argument, from different directions, from different experts. And there is a building consensus that what they have relabeled under the title COVID-19 or SARS-CoV-2 is just another strain of the flu that we experience each season. And I think, and I'm saying I think because this is just my observation, my conclusions of what I've looked at from that various streams of data, is that because this was potentially a novel flu that nobody had experienced before, maybe only a tiny handful of people have experienced before, this explains why it spread like wildfire. And it was already all across the globe before December last year, before December 2019. It had already spread all across the UK. And we started seeing the first cases towards the end of December, beginning of January, but they weren't officially labelled at that time. So the whole charade, the whole scam of the lockdown to prevent the spread and blah, blah, utter bullshit. It was nothing to do with preventing the spread because they knew it already had spread everywhere. Because if, and I'm saying if, just to be careful, because I can't say for 100% one way or the other, if it is a novel, as in new, that's all novel means. It's something new that hasn't been seen before. If it is a novel strain of the coronavirus. Remember, coronavirus means the flu. That is the family of viruses that gives us the symptoms that we call flu, influenza. If it is a novel version of the flu, then nobody's had it before, so therefore it will spread like wildfire because nobody's immune system has ever experienced it before. So everybody's going to pick it up. Not everybody's going to experience symptoms. Not everybody's going to come down with the influenza or pneumonia, etc., because some people's immune system reacts well enough to not be interfered with by this new version of the influenza. So this is why they've got the asymptomatic. It's like, yeah, new version of the flu, but I'm fit enough, thanks. I'm healthy enough, so I'm not succumbing to the flu anyway, so I don't succumb to this one. And now my immune system has recognized and registered this new one. So, yeah, I can walk around being a carrier for this supposed new virus, but I don't experience any problems from it. I'm not symptomatic, etc., etc. And there is now a building wave. They keep telling us about waves and how there's going to be second wave, third wave. It's going to come back again and again. It's going to mutate, and they're going to need to be locked down forever. Vaccines, you got to wait for the vaccine. They keep talking about the waves, but one of the waves that maybe they were expecting, I suppose that's why they have the infodemic element as part of Event 201. But one of the waves that is emerging from that ocean of information is the pushback wave from multiple sources around the world that is questioning the official narrative, or that is revealing data, evidence, information, reasoned argument to show that this thing is not what they are claiming in the official narrative. This is not a world-ending pandemic that is going to kill millions of people. It's just not. The only reason, and I'll say I think, just to caveat myself, because, you know, let's not end up in argumentum ad infinitum, because that's what they like to drag people into. I think the only reason we're seeing the kind of numbers that they are portraying to us is simply because part of the propaganda has been a process of inflating the numbers to make it seem like there is a deadly threat to mass numbers of people. Therefore, it can be labeled a pandemic, and therefore they can have all these justifications to enact legislation and other changes in society to create the lockdown. The reality is that a lot of those categorizations or diagnoses of COVID-19 have, after the fact, been shown to be either incorrect or too much of an assumption or presumption to attribute any cause of death to the infection. It's like, yeah, he fell off a cliff, but when he was tested, he had COVID-19, so we put COVID-19 on the death certificate. So hang on, he fell off a cliff and died from falling off. No, COVID-19. Why is that happening? Because large global organizations are putting pressures on the medical workers to do exactly that. In particular, that is the worst scenario in countries that have a pay-for medical system. So, for example, the USA, where hospitals, medical institutions are getting paid vast amounts of money, vast amounts of dollars, because they have so many COVID-19 patients. Therefore, they need funding help to deal with the swamp, being swamped by the sheer numbers of people infected. Utter bullshit. So they're going, oh, he sniffled, or ka-ching, 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 ka-ching. Every time they wrote COVID-19 down, they get a payout. There is, I think, a similar effect here in the UK, even though we have the National Health Service. The National Health Service is largely privatised to a degree anyway already. And there are parts of the industry and institutions that financially benefit from the patients that go through the NHS system. So therefore, again, they get the same kind of effect. If they put down COVID-19, they'll get extra funding, they'll get extra financial help, etc. So again, they're inclined to do so. And there has been a building wave of evidence coming from medical health workers saying, we're being told to do this, that, and the other. We're being pressured to get patients to sign DNR forms, do not resuscitate forms, and we're getting pressured to put COVID-19 on the death certificates, or their test results have come back inconclusive, but they sniffled, so therefore we put COVID-19. This is being done deliberately to inflate the numbers, to make it seem like there is a pandemic when there is not. All that is happening is a somewhat severe flu season, influenza season. That's it. And as I said earlier, that's possibly more than likely because a novel strain came out this year. You know, the flu mutates every year, which is why we get the recurring seasonal waves of flu, because it mutates through the year. So people's immune system has to get it again, and you get immune to it, the new version of it. Yes. So the new normal is the new world order. You know, I only put NWO in when I was scrolling on that picture to change the titling on it. Yeah, the new world order is based on a scam of making it seem like there is a deadly threat from something that just, no. If you recognize it for what it is not a deadly threat. It's something that if you are in some way compromised, as they say, such as immunocompromised, or you have a pre-existing health condition or comorbidity, then it is worth you taking notice and taking some sensible precautions. Build your immune system up if you can, you know, things like that, which you would do if you were suffering from the risks of the flu season anyway. But for everybody else, why are they locking up the mass of the public that are healthy and who are, as the data is coming out, showing to be more and more of them are asymptomatic carriers? In other words, they've caught it, they've had it, but they didn't suffer from it because it's actually not that fucking deadly. Part of the reason, I think I might have mentioned this in the last couple of weeks, part of the reason why they have deliberately dragged their feet on testing is because they knew full well in advance that if too much successful testing was done, it would reveal enough data to show that the numbers reveal that the mortality rate is so low as to be almost insignificant or no different from the flu that we're already used to anyway. So they deliberately dragged their feet on the testing to make sure that there wasn't a build-up of data that then could be seen by various medical workers and go, hang on, you're telling me 1 million people are infected, but only like 1,000 have died. That means the mortality rate is less than the seasonal flu. What's going on here? So here in the UK in particular, I'll talk about the UK in particular rather than other countries because it's different in other countries, but I argue that they have deliberately dragged their feet for two reasons. One, to help disguise the data. So, as I said, the people lower down in the compartmentalized pyramid do not see that build-up of data and start going, oh, hang on a minute, and asking questions to hide the reality that this is not in any way anywhere near as fatal as they claim. It is certainly not anything that is categorized as a pandemic or epidemic that requires the closing down of the entirety of society. No, but also because that would enable them to have a justification for putting the military on the streets. I think I mentioned this last week. Yeah, they made a point over the last couple of weeks of saying that, oh, now that we've made use of the military and we've got military units stationed in certain places who are carrying out testing for us, you know, the NHS just wasn't capable of doing it on their own. Oh, no, they had to have the military come and do it. Now we're achieving 100,000 tests a day. Way a justification to allow them to placate the public by using their New World Order shite guard deodorizer. Your government recommends the New World Odor deodorizer. The new normal is shite guard. Yeah, they use that shite guard to placate the public into taking no notice. It masks the stench of tyranny, taking no notice of the reality that military units have been stationed around the country in important places, usually places of transit. In other words, places where large numbers of people usually pass through, so that they can control the movement of people in the near future. Well, now, really. Yeah. But we'll get into a bit more of that in a minute. But just also to add in at this point, because I know I've rambled a bit about testing and the numbers and the data and stuff like that. I'm saying all this based on the official premise that there is a virus, that the virus can be transmitted, and that it makes people ill and some people can die from the symptoms. Based on that premise. Because there are still plenty of questions and a lot of experts coming out and saying, one, this can't be transmitted, or even viruses don't work that way. So therefore you can't test for them. What you're testing for is the exosomes, as in the residue that's left from the effect of you picking up the illness and your immune system fighting it off. I'm confident that the majority of people who come and listen to me rant each week are well aware of this, and there's various people out there such as Dr. Kaufman that you can look at and you can find out more about germ theory and terrain theory. Derek Brose interviewed him on consciousresistance.com. You can find his work online easy enough, and there's other medical experts that have come forward, lifetime experts that have been working in the field of epidemiology and virology for multiple decades. One world-renowned professor who came forward and said, it doesn't work that way. You can't catch this. It can't be transmitted in this way. And the press descended on him and started character assassinating him and trying to debunk and refute anything he says. Just like they did with Dr. Erickson and Dr. Massini, if I'm saying it right. I keep getting his name wrong, but their video getting scrubbed from YouTube, it's still available in other places like on BitChute and other sites. And he's been standing his ground, which I think, fuck it, we need more of that. We need more of that scientific integrity, medical integrity. I know for many people, they don't like some of what he says because he talks about vaccines and testing and whatever, but referencing the premise of the official narrative and their claims about the fatality rate of this illness, etc., he's standing his ground and he's turning up on other places. He's doing interviews with other people online. So even though they scrubbed that initial video of the two doctors talking about the data they've been gathering and what they concluded from looking at and analysing that data, he's still there and he's still saying what we're all pretty much saying. This is no justification. There is no reason to shut down society based on the evidence that they're presenting to us, even their own evidence, the numbers that they claim are dying. I would also argue, and I know I mentioned this last week, I'm not going to go over it too much, but I would also argue this has been, in the UK, this has been why they have deliberately dragged their feet about getting protective equipment to all medical workers, because they wanted to make sure it spread as much as possible. And they wanted it to spread into all the care homes because they know the elderly are more likely to succumb to the symptoms of this severe influenza. I'll refer to it as that because that seems to be more likely what it is. Just because it's new, it hits people more severely because their immune system is not used to it. So the elderly would succumb more, so they could rack the numbers of dead up and they can make it look more deadly than it is. But also, and I was listening to UK Column earlier and I didn't realise that they were doing this kind of thing, but they talked about how certain departments of the government are now suggesting or moving towards basically amalgamating the private healthcare system in the UK, which is the private companies that run elderly care homes and other places like that, like hospices. They're talking about amalgamating that all under the NHS umbrella. In other words, it would all come back under the control of the centralised governmental bullshit. So, yes, I caveat myself for saying I'm not a virologist, I'm a microbiologist, epidemiologist, blah, 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 ologist. I'm a bamboozoologist. I'm not any of that shit, so I can't say 100% whether the virus is even real and how it affects people's immune system and shit like that. And I'm not going to get dragged into that kind of deliberate quagmire argument that they're trying to get a lot of the public into. Because that is deliberately meant to lead to a result where the vast majority of people who get dragged into that arena of, well, how do you know it spreads? How do you know what a virus does? You're not an expert. That drags people into an argumentum ad infinitum, which wears them down psychologically. And when they're worn down to the point of breaking, where do they turn to? They turn to the people who offer the supposed only lifeboat, which is the official talking heads, which means people go back to the official narrative and they turn around and go, oh, well, I looked for information, but it was so confusing and chaotic and everybody was arguing with me and telling me that I don't know what I'm talking about because I'm not a virologist, so I better just listen to the people on the TV. That is psychological manipulation. That is behavioral modeling, molding, deliberate manipulation to push people back towards the talking point, the official narrative propaganda, the script. I'm not saying people shouldn't investigate that kind of detail, but don't allow yourself to get dragged into a perpetual argument with people who just want to repeat whatever authority figure they have decided to have as their personal leader. Yeah, cult of personality. Oh, I believe Dr. Whitty, he's behind the podium nearly every day telling us that hundreds of people are dying. He must know what he's talking about. Or Ted Ross, head of the WHO, who's not an actual medical doctor, yet he's helping create legislation and diktat that is now ruling most of the globe. Just repeat their talking points and argue with each other about the rules that they are telling you must obey. Anyway, I've digressed a lot from what I was originally going to say, but to get back to the second wave, the new normal, it masks the stench of tyranny. James Corbett mentioned a few weeks ago the new normal and how they will use the pushback. I just turn my little lamp on so I've got a bit more light. They will use the natural pushback that is coming from people who will ask questions and will not, readily just obey when they're told. Ignorance is strength. Ignorance is strength. Yeah. Don't get upset. Just do what they tell you. If you start questioning things, you generate more fear. Oh, everybody's afraid of fear. We don't want fear, do we? No, we never learn anything from being afraid. No, ignorance is strength. Stay in your bubble. The new normal. The second wave, as James Corbett pointed out in his little newsletter I showed you, I think, last week. The system will try and use the pushback to be blamed, to be the fall guy for the explanation of why there is a second wave resurgence of the virus, which I guarantee they will claim that there is. For years, I've tried to avoid making predictions of the future, but one thing I like that Ike said the other week is the fascism is anything but predictable. Is predictable, if anything. Yeah? As in, fascism is quite predictable because it always takes the same deliberate steps because the goal is that fascist regime. So you can sort of predict what they're going to do next because you know where they're going. Fascism is anything but anything. Oh man, I'm missing it or paraphrasing it. I think you get the point. But about the second wave, I guarantee that they will claim that there is a resurgence in the virus because certain people get released from lockdown. So in these coming weeks and the next couple of months through the summer months, here in the UK, I'm mainly talking about the UK because it's going to be slightly different in different countries. They're going to start easing the lockdown. But what will occur is a lot of people who have been shut away in their home, who are not usually shut away in their home, they're not lock-ins, they're not hermit isolationists, they're used to being out and about in day-to-day society. But for the last few months, they've been locked away at home, not getting enough sunlight, not getting enough fresh air, not getting enough interaction, which is where we exchange all the bacteria and other shit like that actually helps to build our immune system. All of a sudden they're going to be let out and they're all going to start mingling again. So you're going to get a lot of people who were never exposed to the virus prior to the lockdown are suddenly going to be exposed to the virus as they get released from lockdown. So there will be a certain amount of new infection for people that hadn't encountered the virus before. And they will use that as a justification and as a smokescreen to say, oh, look, it's still deadly. We've got to restart the lockdowns again. When we get back into the winter time, autumn and winter, we'll have to lock down again because it will start all over again. Because look at all these numbers. Look at these people getting infected. Yeah, because you've kept them locked away and isolated from each other for so long. Even though, as I say, the reality is more than likely that the vast majority of the population, if not the entire population, has already experienced this virus. We have already encountered it, and if you're likely to succumb to it, you already would have done. So if you're feeling no ill health and you feel okay and whatever, you probably already had it and your immune system has gone, yeah, fuck that, we dealt with that, mate. So there's no reason why you can't go back around to your daily life, back to your normal routine. Normal. So there will be a second wave resurgence when they start releasing people from lockdown, or there will be a facade of a second wave resurgence, and this will be yet again amplified by them massaging and manipulating the numbers by fraudulently, because it is fraud. This is one thing I don't get with some of the medical health workers. Why are you not outright calling this out as fraud? Because if you're being pressured to put a presumptive cause of death as COVID-19, that's fraud. Unless you can prove that you can see the cause of the illness and the death was from this new virus that they call COVID-19, then aren't you breaking the law by putting that on the death certificate? As far as I know, that's fraud. So why are you not standing up to this? Why are you not speaking out against it? You're just going along with it because you're afraid of losing your job? Because loads of medical care workers are being laid off because there isn't actually any work for them, because the majority of the hospitals are empty, because they've concentrated all the infected patients into only a few hospitals so they can make it look like they're overcrowded. So what are you worried about losing? In effect, you have already lost your job. The same for the majority of the rest of the population. How can you still claim that argument of, oh, I don't want to speak out, mate, because I might lose my job? You've already lost your job. You've already lost the society that you used to do that job to keep sustaining. So what do you got to lose? just a little bit, it's a rhetorical question that's a little bit inaccurate because you have actually got a lot to lose. You got the entire world to lose, basically. To not make it sound too much of a kind of doom thing, but what has been going on at the moment is a gambit. It's a coup to take over the entire world and to switch the world from the way things used to be into the new world odor. Yeah, it stinks. If you smell shite, do you turn around and go, oh, what a lovely bouquet of roses. That smells fantastic. That's my favourite perfume. No, you say, fuck me, I can smell shite. So why don't you call it out for the shite that it is? Based on that, because I know it sounds quite pessimistic. And I think I've made this point recently, but to sort of try and, I wanted to try and put not so much an esoteric spin on it, but try and point out some of the esoteric elements of a lot of what's been going on with this whole situation. And I know I've spoken about this multiple times at length in one way or another, but I think it's very deliberate that they chose the coronavirus to be the vehicle to enable this switching of the system to be so-called justified, supposedly justified. Because corona means, in old language, which, for them is much more used and relevant and prevalent than modern slang and colloquialisms, but in oldie world language, corona means crown. It is that circlet that you see around the sun when there is a total solar eclipse, and it represents the outer ring. It also represents the crown chakra, and it's why monarchs wear a crown on their head like that, because when God looks down on them, what God sees is the same as what we see when we look at a solar eclipse, and we see that ring around the outside of the moon, basically, but you see the outer ring of the sun shining around the silhouette of the moon. And they deliberately chose coronavirus to be the vehicle for esoteric reasons, because what is taking place here is not so much a physical takeover, it is a psychological and spiritual takeover. If you follow a certain religious doctrine, you might prefer to call it a soul takeover. This is a spiritual battle between one god and their opposition, the devil and whatever. And all the different religions have their own version of this kind of thing, including Buddhism, even though it claims to not be a religion. It still has the same kind of doctrines and dogma and whatever. This is not just a physical takeover. It is a physical takeover because of the way they're changing how your society runs and will run in the future, as in the majority of the population are not needed to do jobs anymore because they will be automated. Therefore, most of you have got to get used to being unemployed, receiving some form of universal payment and entertaining and occupying your time by living in an online virtualized world where everything's lovely and shiny and everybody loves you and everybody clicks thumbs up on everything you do and you get so validated. But your real life will just be, live in a cube, live in a box and eat fake food that just about sustains you in a very sickly condition, which suits them perfectly. There's loads that I could add into that, but I want to keep moving. But really what it's about is the psychological and spiritual takeover of the majority of the public. Are you an order follower? When the crown barks, do you jump? That's what this is about. When the talking heads come on TV and go, the numbers are thousands today, so we've got to close everything down. You're not allowed out your room. Stay in your room. Remain indoors. Do you obey? That's what this is really about. The implementation of a one world dictatorial governmental system where the mass of the population are required to respond with automatic obedience. When a police officer tells you to back off, even though you can see them beating somebody down, you are required to back off. And if you don't, you'll get tasered, you'll get taken to a prison cell. They'll probably test you and say, oh, he's got COVID. Quick, send him to the wards, send him to the isolation wards. That will get used as a justification in the near future. The legislation has already been put in place here in the UK so that you can be forcibly quarantined. You think they're not going to use that as an excuse, then I suggest you get out of nursery school and start actually learning what reality is like. So really what it's about is who is being coronated. There's a reason it's called coronation. When they put the circlet on the monarch's head, and like I said, that circlet represents the ring, like a halo around the crown chakra. I thought about getting a little clip of the old Monkey Magic TV series when the priest, I think it was Tripitaka, does his little prayer and he causes the circlet to shrink on Monkey's head, so it causes him pain, and therefore he obeys because of the pain that the circlet shrinking is causing him. That's what they're doing to the public. Do you accept the dominance of the crown that they are trying to claim? Or do you reclaim that crown for yourself? That is the choice point you're being presented with. This is the coronation that is occurring at this time. I felt this coming when they burnt down Notre Dame, and I made a big rant about it, and I wasn't exactly very clear. I think that was just simply because it wasn't very clear for me at the time what I felt I was seeing, but it seemed very significant that this is the beginning of an initiation. This is the initiation of a process that they are wanting the mass of the public to be dragged through. That is an initiation process, the way Truth Stream Media described it. Melissa described it very well. Yeah? Do you accept the dominance of the crown that they are trying to assume for themselves? And I'm saying themselves in a very loose, descriptive way, generalized way. Or do you reclaim that crown for yourself? Because if you are sovereign to yourself so that you can use your own cognitive liberty to look at this pile of shite and call it a pile of shite for what it is, then that crown is with you. You disobey the official narrative. That doesn't mean you go out causing conflict with people. It doesn't mean you want to destroy the world and destroy society. It just means you see their bullshit for what it is. So the crown is with you. You are sovereign, which is, as far as I'm concerned, just as a caveat, as far as I'm concerned, that is reality. There are only two powers in this reality. The Godhead that creates everything. Even if you don't believe in a God, it's whatever beginning you think the universe had. That is the ultimate power of everything. And then there is you. There is no middleman in between, standing on the top of your head, passing orders down into your crown. A few weeks ago, I mentioned about how the energy body flows upwards. Your physical body processes downwards. You put food in the front and it works its way down and comes out your bumhole. Yeah? It goes downwards. Physical processing of matter goes downwards. Energetic processing of everything, of the energetic reality of the universe, of reality itself, goes upwards. So your higher self is projecting upwards. Your energetic self is projecting upwards. That's where the crown sits. So, do you want to take it back for yourself? Or do you want to let them carry on making their claims for which so that they can initiate that structure of the new world order? I'm calling it that deliberately because it stinks. The way they're presenting it stinks. I know at the moment, recently, a lot more people are starting to push back in one way or another. More people are just going out and about and getting on with their day. Yeah, more people are actually questioning things. More people are willing to talk about stuff and to turn around and say, oh, I think that's illogical. That don't make sense. What they said last week doesn't add up to what's going on this week. The numbers don't add up. More and more people are starting to realize that to some degree, they've been duped. And this is why I think recently they started making little murmurings about incompetence and mistakes were made and stuff like that. The usual kind of governmental excuses to try and hide what they've actually been trying to attempt to do, but failed to succeed to get the end result they wanted. So when they try to trick people and it fails, they go, oh no, I never meant it. It was just a mistake. We didn't really mean to say that to you. We didn't really mean to tell all the businesses to shut down. It was just a suggestion. It wasn't an order. I want to play a little clip just to sort of make this point, if I can get it to work. Hang on. I need to copy it across. That one. And I will explain, because I know I haven't even mentioned it yet. I will explain why I pull it in the subtitle. Not my finger. Don't pull my finger. You'll get an odor of surprise. Hang on, no, I need to open it in this Chrome tab, and it's getting really dark in here now. So hopefully you can still see me. But the main thing is that the audio is still coming through, because that's what really matters. And I'm sure you'll be able to see this because it is a video, so it will share on the screen. Click faster, do more, quicker. It's taking too long. Right, hopefully you can see that. Yeah, cool. And hopefully you can hear it. I'll mute myself for a sec to make sure.
Everything we're doing is basically voluntary on behalf of people, right? State government, local government, federal government doesn't have the power to enforce stay-at-home orders. If 19 million people said, I'm going out today, they would go out.
What did you say, nigga?
Everything we're doing is basically voluntary on behalf of people, right? State government, local government, federal government doesn't have the power to enforce stay-at-home orders. If 19 million people said, I'm going out today, they would go out.
Yourself, right? Yeah, I think you get the point. That was from Jeff C, who caught that. I know it's popped up in other places as well, but I like the way he put it together with the bit of Charlie Heston at the end. Makes the point. And as far as I know, this is still true in the UK. There is no legislation that says you are not allowed to go to the park. What they've been using is legislation that already exists, such as the PACE Act and the Riot Act. There is no bit of legislation in place that says people are not allowed to go to the park and enjoy the sunshine. It's voluntary, but they've deliberately used NLP and ambiguous language to give the general populace that it is an instruction, an order that has the weight of the judiciary behind it. In other words, you can be put in jail if you don't obey, etc. And they have tasked the police to be deliberately heavy-handed to reinforce that perception. So the police have gone about and fined people when they found them walking around in the park, etc. But they're not being fined under some new legislation. No, they're being fined under things like disrupting the peace, endangering the public, shit like that. Legislation that already exists. There is no legal requirement for businesses to shut down. There's just been the request, the suggestion that it would be good if they did. And people have gone along with it because everybody's been made shit scared with the fear, oh, I might get the virus, I might die. Oh. Were you that shit scared of the flu last year? How many tens of thousands of people died from the flu in the winter of 2018, 2019? Were you shit scared then? Did you not want to go to work then? Well, you might not have wanted to go to work anyway, but you get the point. They've amplified the fear deliberately to such an extent, and they've made it sound like you are being ordered to do something when you haven't been. Part of the trickery of the esoteric manipulation, the occultic methodology that the people in the shadows use is that kind of karmic redistribution. I'm saying I as in that's them, you know, I'm speaking as if I'm them kind of thing. I don't get the karmic retribution for what's been done because I just suggested to you to do something and you chose to do it. I didn't tell you you had to do it. I didn't tell you that if you don't do it, I'm going to kill you. I just said, oh, well, you might be at risk if you don't do this, that, and the other. And you succumbed to the fear of that, and you went along with the suggestion. So therefore, I'm not karmically to blame. I'm not going to get any karmic comeback from what you've done. So they've deliberately worded this and played this game in a way where the public has been tricked into leading themselves into a technocratic police state, because that is literally what it is. For years, I've argued with people in one way or another about the coming technocracy, and I've had lots of the usual responses and things, oh, you're just scared of washing machines and shit like that. Very, very small, short-sighted thinking. The reality is that this is a technocracy. This is the beginnings of the technocracy super world state that they're trying to initiate. So you have an opportunity to now to reclaim that crown for yourself. To call that shit out for what it is. And get back to living. Yeah, part of the big thing about this is it's all based on fear. And I know, as far as I remember, Pete, was Greer that said it a while ago. It is a psychic attack. And that is what they've been relying on. Making a psychic attack against the mass of the public. And for a lot of the public, because they're not interested in these kind of subjects and topics and questions, they don't have the immune system, the psychic, spiritual immune system to resist this kind of attack. So they succumb to it. Now, one other thing. Sorry.
Yeah, go on. Sorry.
Okay. Just to try and explain why I put pull it. Shit, I need to do another screen share for this just to prove a point. Maybe I'm being a bit pedantic, but it is to prove a point about the manipulation that takes place in the media, even in the alternative media, and the people that are presented to us as being supposed saviors and champions of the people and all that kind of shit, whereas often in reality they are controlled opposition directly, or they are useful idiots, or they are marketeers, business people that basically just see an opportunity to make money and they jump on it because it's an opportunity to make money, and they're not really interested in dealing with the New World Order. They just go, oh, look, people are looking for stuff like, oh, yeah, I'll put out videos like that. I can monetize that shit. But over the last few weeks, David Icke has done a couple of interviews with a company called London Real. It's been around for several years. I've been subscribed to them for a number of years. They do some really good presentations. They interview some really interesting people, and they give people the chance to put their ideas and arguments forward, people like David Icke. And I appreciated the fact that David Icke had the opportunity to say what he was saying a few weeks ago, and we talked about that. Yeah, I remember recommending the one interview, saying, go and give it a listen. You might not like David Icke, but listen to the information and the arguments he's making. But then recently they made this whole big show of how, like, you know, oh, we're going to have him on for the third time, and it's going to be the ultimate discussion ever. There's going to be 1 million viewers, and it's going to be the uber conversation to end the whole argument, and really bigging it up. Loads of PR marketing and shit like that. And not long ago, last week, David Icke had his YouTube channel shut down and his Facebook page removed. And the system has basically somewhat deplatformed him, not completely, because they haven't shut his website down. They haven't, tried to push him off the internet completely. They haven't done a Julian Assange on him, even though there's loads of questions about Assange and whatever. But the system could, if they wanted to, just do that kind of thing to him, to shut him down and stop him speaking, but they haven't. Whether there's a reality to his YouTube channel being shut down, his Facebook page being shut, as in it really was the system that did it to him, I don't know. There's a possibility that they've done it themselves as a marketing ploy. Now, the reason I mention that is because, I say, London Real, Brian Rose, the guy who presents London Real, has made a big play of this whole thing over the last week, saying, well, more than a week, the last few weeks, saying, oh, we're going to have Icke back again. It's going to be the ultimate conversation, and we're going to live stream it, and millions of people watching, and you can watch for free. And he kept emphasizing that you can watch for free, you can watch for free, which, strictly speaking, being strictly accurate, is not true. Because when you go to their website, to be able to watch those streams, including the one they did on Sunday with David Icke, you have to give them an email address. Now, London Real is a for-profit business. It's a for-profit company. They're not a charity. They're not doing it out of the goodness of their own hearts, etc., etc. They're doing it to make money. It's a media company. So do you think when you give them an email address that they're just going to keep that securely and not let anybody do anything with it? I promise we'll take care of your personal identity. They do like most companies do. They sell, they trade all that stuff. So over this last week probably, London Real website has had tens of thousands, hundreds of thousands of new subscribers submitting their email address so that they can get to watch the David Icke conversation for free. So thank you very much. That's a nice bit of, chunk of data that they can sell to the people who buy that kind of stuff. Yeah? The tracking companies and whatever. And as well, don't forget there'll be a lot of metadata about who visits the website and who's watching and how long they watch for and stuff like that. All of that is tradable data in this new internet economy. So don't think you're getting it for free. You're not. At the same time, he made a big play of getting people to donate to set up the technological infrastructure that they needed to be able to broadcast the conversation live to hundreds of thousands of viewers. That is not a cheap thing to do. Really not. You're talking hundreds of thousands of pounds for the tech just to be able to stream, to host that many viewers all at once. If you're only streaming to like 30 people, it doesn't exactly cost a whole lot of money to do that. It's still a bit of change, but it's not a massive amount of money. But He was asking for donations to be able to set up the infrastructure so that they could stream to hundreds of thousands of people. A lot of people out there did just that. They donated money so that they could set it up, and they did. You know, he did set it up. They did the conversation. They streamed it to hundreds of thousands of people. But all those people who donated are basically just given free money to a privately owned for-profit media company. So you have just crowdfunded a private business. You didn't buy shares in it. It's not like you're ever going to get share money back from you funding his business, but you've happily handed over the money for him to expand his business. This is very similar to what Alex Jones always used to do, yeah? And it fits perfectly for David Icke, because that's exactly what Icke wanted to do with the People's Voice Project. It's a privately owned company, but it's funded by donations from the public. You might as well just subscribe to Netflix. It's the equivalent of doing that. So again, them claiming that you're getting it for free, I might be being pedantic, but it's not accurate. It's not free. And I'm sure he would make an argument about, oh, well, these services cost money and we want to be able to put the information out to multiple people and blah, 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 blah. But what I'm trying to point out here is the marketing trickery. And marketing trickery being used on a demographic of people who at the moment is growing massively because there is a great awakening happening because of what's going on in the world out there. The government is squeezing, so more and more people are asking questions and they're looking for alternative answers because they no longer believe the bullshit official narrative. So lo and behold, in come the marketeers and go, oh, they want to buy some angry dollars. Oh, yeah, we got to sell them some angry dollars. You know, it just made me think of Bill Hicks. Yeah, you work in marketing, kill yourself. Yeah, they are selling a product to a growing demographic of the public that is desperate for alternative answers because they no longer believe the official bullshit. I'm not saying Icke is wrong in what he was talking about or that he didn't say good stuff. I'm pointing out how the alternative media is just as manipulated as the mainstream media and will exploit the public who at the moment are being subjected to being terrorized by their own government. So who's the worst marketeer? Yeah, I've made this argument before about things like pornography. Who's the worst perpetrator? The people who make the pornography or the people who buy it and share it and sell it to others? Sorry, I said I was going to screen share this just to make a point about something. Yeah, a lot of people on the internet, because I tuned in on the YouTube page thinking that they would broadcast the conversation on the YouTube page, which they did begin to. Yeah, at the beginning of the conversation, they were broadcasting it live to YouTube, and I was like, yes, thank you. I can watch it for free. I don't have to give you any details. I don't have to give you any information to be allowed to watch it for free. I just watch it on YouTube. They showed well, from what I saw, it was about 20 minutes worth of the beginning of the conversation. And then I saw, like, it got shut down. And I saw loads of people posting comments and uploading videos going, David Icke shut down on his live conversation. YouTube shuts him down. YouTube cracking down. Google censoring. No, London Real turned off the YouTube feed. Yeah, and Brian Rose says it himself in this little vlog that he put up just after the broadcast. I'll play it. Hopefully you can hear it. I did move it forward to where he says it.
Test drive. And there's some beautiful moments here. We streamed the first 25 minutes on YouTube. It was the single largest live stream in the world on YouTube.
You see, he's not exactly direct with the way he says it. He just says, we streamed the first 25 minutes. We streamed the first 25 minutes. Not we were streaming and then YouTube shut it down after 25 minutes. No, we streamed the first 25 minutes, and then they turned it off because they knew that of the approximately 100,000 viewers on YouTube, which was near enough what it was while it was live, I was watching the count going up and up and up and up, and it was over 80,000 when I last looked at the numbers before it shut off. They knew full well that a large number of those people who were watching on YouTube would immediately go to the London Real website and go, oh, God, I've got to keep watching. I need to know what he says next. Oh, sign up, sign me up, sign me up. It was a marketing ploy. Yeah. Give you a sample, just like a drug dealer, give you a sample and then take it away and say, right, the rest you've got to pay for. I appreciate the fact that there are private business corporations, companies, whatever, private businesses like his that are doing what they do. But I don't appreciate marketing manipulation and trickery, and even more so at a time like now when the public is in a situation and psychologically being terrorized by their own government. You don't need this kind of shit as well. This marketing manipulation. If what David Icke is saying is so valuable to the public, why does he never give it away for free? Yeah, why is it? It's always, oh yeah, you can find all the answers in my latest book. It's only £20 for the book or whatever. If what you're saying is going to set the world free, why don't you just give it away for free? And I've been saying this for years now. Yeah, I appreciate a lot of what he talks about and a lot of the information he brings, a lot of the arguments he makes, but I radically disagree with his business model. If you claim you're trying to help people and to alleviate the shit that's happening in the world, then you don't exploit an opportunity to expand your own business and make lots of fucking money. Thank you very much. Because otherwise you're just perpetuating the system that you claim to be against. It's probably quite appropriate that it's got all dark in here now to talking about this kind of shit. But I'm hopeful, because this has proved true in the past, that after the fact, the video will get uploaded on other platforms and it will be available for free. I know London Real will do their usual thing where they'll put up like 2 or 3 minute little snippets. Again, this is like taster shit to try and get you to go to their website and sign up and blah, 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 so that they make money off your subscription. Marketing. Yeah, but eventually people will put it up for free. And usually Ike never chases up on copyright stuff. You know, there's an Ike video on my channel that I put up years ago, and I put that one up deliberately because it's not too long, and it doesn't go into a lot of the stuff like the lizard people and stuff like that. It's mainly about technology and the controlling institutions and shit like that. And I've never received any problems from that. And Ike doesn't tend to chase people up online who re-upload his content. He makes his money. His business model is made on his presentation talks and his books that he sells. And he makes an all right living. Thank you very much. Anyway, yeah, that was why it says pull it. Because Brian Rose pulled that broadcast off YouTube. Before YouTube even had the chance to censor them or interfere with the broadcast. No, they pulled it as a marketing ploy to drive the viewers to their website.
Yeah,
Don't need it.
Yeah, you're right. And there's no such thing as a free lunch. Do you remember that old saying? You know?
Not unless you live out in the wilderness.
Well, yeah, unless you, well, yeah, but I mean, in a sort of this kind of society, you know, where someone's offering you something you think is free, when there's the strings attached, and now it's just internet strings and data that they want to collect, and like you say, use that as well. But yeah, very spot on. I was thinking of the well, lots of things you said there. There's loads. I mean, a few notes. It's like, blimey. Just reclaiming your own power again. That's the war on us. You know, it's a war on us. Yeah, it's a war on us. It's a war on your mind, your body, spirit, your higher self, whatever. You know, you've got to see that for what it is, and that's that. It's obvious to me over time that, you know, they've denied you that kind of knowing of yourself and all that, going in that direction or finding something about yourself or reading something a bit better. You know, it seems like they've done their best to dumb us down, you know, what information that's out there and what we sort of are being, you know, like I say, what stimulates us, what gets us going, and seems to be just the basic. You talked about chakras. It's the lower chakras they keep you in, you know, too low. You know, you've got to be grounded though if you're doing spiritual work. So I wanted to say a warning about the, you know, go to your crown chakra. Don't go there first. You know, it's
you got to work your way up.
Work your way up, yeah, sort of thing. If you were going to do any kind of work like that, but do it with someone who knows what they're doing and what they're saying, and someone who you can trust, and all the rest of it. Because there's a lot of shills out there who will tell you a load of shit as well. So there's a lot of, you know, if you're going in with the right intent, the right people will come along and help you. That's what I think.
Yeah.
If you're doing it with the right intent,
the universe provides. It is a
yeah.
mirror.
Yeah.
The intention, the intention that you put out will be reflected back to you.
Yeah, exactly. And this stuff will come, and I think people can see through certainly a lot of the shit at the moment, and just made me think about. I mean, mention more on Wednesday, but the various ways they've come up with how we're going to, you know, lift the lockdown gradually, and how we're going to get back to some kind of traveling again on, say, aeroplanes and going through airports and all the rest of it. And I just thought to myself, wow, there was I think in Japan, I think it was, as a sort of disinfectant pod you can go into. And it just reminded me of like you know, we say the sheep, and the sheep, or like a sheep dip. You know, you have to be dipped in this awful muck, chemical, whatever the fuck it would be, you know, which would probably kill you in 5 years anyway, just like they've tried to irradiate us as we go through the airports. They'll now be blasting us with disinfectants that we have no idea if that, you know, the toxicity of them will probably kill you more than the virus will.
It will certainly mess up, if not destroy, your immune system. They should just relabel them on the side of the pubs, immune destruction system.
Yeah. So, you know, just weaken you as you go through, and, you know, I'll get more into that. So there's other things that they're coming up with, and just, you know, full PPE wearing stewardesses in the full gown and garb and masks as they're walking through the aisles, serving you coffees and teas. It'll look a bit bizarre. It'll be like you're in like a hospital.
Yeah.
You know?
And when they say easing the lockdown,
yeah,
I think the steps they're going to take, it's going to take them all summer. And by the time they've gone through the first few, where we're not going to be back to normal per se, you know, some people will have a bit more movement, and they might start up some of the businesses again and things like that. But then we're going to be into autumn, winter again.
Yeah.
So you're going to get this sort of a little bit of a summer holiday, kind of, but it's going to be a busman's holiday, because you're still going to be expected to work. If anything, you're probably going to be expected to work harder, because you're trying to catch up for the 3 months that we've been shut down. I'm going to put this up just to sort of reiterate the point that the lockdown, I think, you know, I'll say that just so it's like a caveat here. I think, my opinion, my conclusion from looking at the information and the evidence available, the lockdown is not truly going to ever be removed. Yeah, this is from the Imperial College London scientist in the Daily Mail, warning that vaccine may never be created and outbreaks and lockdowns will become the norm. The new normal.
Yeah, and I wrote down well adjusted to the madness.
Yeah. It's no measure of health to be well adjusted to a profoundly sick society, said Jiddu Krishnamurti.
Yeah, and
he was summarizing the kind of thing that Huxley was talking about when he's saying, like, most people think they're normal. They're not. They've just been made to get used to living in an abnormal situation.
And I was going to say the next thing is the new app that they're trialing, which is firstly being trialed in the Isle of Wight.
Strangely enough, that's where David Icke lives.
Yeah, trying it out there first, and everyone obviously has a smart device, smartphone, and then they'll see how this device, and then they'll alert you to go and, you know, you may have the virus. I don't know. It's crazy. I mean,
I think everybody will register. And that's even allowing for the fact that their tests are very unreliable. something like 80% false positive results. And
Yeah.
I was looking at a little article that was on Reuters earlier, Reuters news agency, talking about, I think it was Tanzania. The Prime Minister of Tanzania had made a statement saying, we tested the test kits and they proved to be completely useless because even a goat and a pawpaw fruit came back with a positive result for COVID-19.
So
now, the goat may be somewhat understandable, viruses zoologically transmitting, possibly, but a pawpaw fruit being tested positive for COVID. Hang on a minute. Yeah?
We are living in idiocracy, don't forget, Cookie.
And then you get into the narrative that they're pushing at the moment primarily in the USA, that this has all been created by the Chinese, and the Chinese are the ones that are selling most people the test kits. So therefore the test kits are infected. So when they test you, they're actually giving you the virus.
Yeah.
It's all potentially bullshit anyway. Yeah?
I'd like to say they're all having their sort of say, and Trump has ruffled a few, hasn't he? Saying he did say, I would never have a vaccine. He did say that I've never had a vaccine and I will never have a vaccine. That's what he was heard to say. So there's a big push maybe for that. But then this headline here saying they'll never get a vaccine, knowing the blowback, knowing the pushback against it already isn't going to be a good way to go here. So we'll just do these lockdowns and scatter everyone in their homes, but they're already building the infrastructure where they're making enormous amounts of money already. As I mentioned last week, I think the top billionaires made an extra 285 billion in 3 weeks.
You wonder why Bill Gates looks so happy with all this talk about lockdowns and everything.
Yeah, they're loving it. So the billionaires get richer and richer. And those in the smaller bracket just lose out, go out of business because they can't maintain this constant stop-start business type model that is now the new normal, as you say, which is what it'll be. Those that might survive for a year or two, but then, like you say, if this is true, then we may never be in the same again. And it looks that way. They can use this and pull this at any time. And then everyone's got an app and everybody's got a bleeper or something now that will, hopefully, target those ones who maybe are infectious, and like you say, take them away.
Don't worry. While you're locked away in your little cubicle, you can at least watch sexy women dancing around on the, supposedly doing exercise. This just made me think of THX 1138.
Yeah.
Where he sat in his cubicle watching the woman dancing on the VR machines.
Yeah.
No, don't worry about it. Just look at sexy women. Look at all the women and semi-naked women down the sidebar.
Yeah.
You can find virtual love. You can have your own AI girlfriend or boyfriend, whatever you choose, or it's something in between, whatever.
Yeah.
So that just made me laugh because the guy was supposedly injured and he's got his arm in a sling and shit. And I bet what really happened is they thought, right, we've done this thing kind of to death, and everybody's starting to get bored of watching me, the guy, do exercises. So let's get you on in some tight yoga pants to dance around a bit, and we'll get a lot more audience back then, and we can make it seem like we're actually connecting with people.
Yeah.
Sex sells, sex and violence.
Yes, just go and look at Netflix. Take your pick. It seems to be that's what they've been pushing out, which I talk about the dumbing down process we've mentioned many times. It's been a progressive thing over decades and decades to bring us to the moment where we are thinking we are in that movie, where, it is like, and that clip you played from Jeff, there you go, making people fully aware, but still there's the, what did he say? Oh, carry on, repeat the lie. And, that's how the media's been working this all the way along. Like you said, go on.
The reality is it's voluntary, but we'll make you feel that it isn't Because whenever we encounter somebody that is voluntarily choosing to ignore the suggestions and is carrying on about their day, then we're going to find them under some other bullshit excuse, so that the rest of you will feel terrorized into not, doing other than what we suggest you do, to stay at home, blah, blah, blah.
Yeah.
I mean, he's the senator for New York State, so in New York City at the moment, they've got something like 12,000 deaths, supposedly. But then when you allow for the reality that a lot of the death certificates have been, put under COVID, even when it's not, and the deliberate inflating of numbers in that kind of fashion, and the money they're getting paid every time somebody's written down as having that illness, that's why they've got 12,000 cases. When you compare the population in New York to other major cities around the world that have a similar population number, the numbers don't add up. New York City is like an absolute complete exception compared to other places around the world. So why is it that high in New York? Ka-ching, 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 ka-ching. Oh, you got COVID? Oh, cool. That's another however many thousands of dollars for me. Thank you very much.
Yeah. And with the new app, it'll certainly speed things up, won't it? If people start to adopt all this. And look at the face masks and stuff now. They're saying wearing them on public transport would seem the new normal going forward, it seems.
Can't remember which state it was. I'm not sure. It might even have been in Canada, but there was the one, I'll say state because I can't remember for certain. There was the one state where they did make it mandatory to wear masks when on public transport.
Yeah, that could happen here. I mean,
there was a video clip. I think, again, it was Jeff C that covered it. There's a video clip of a guy getting forcibly dragged off the bus because he didn't have a mask on.
And the thing is, no one, I mean, who's going to provide these masks? It's like I say, it's...
and who certifies them?
Yeah, exactly. Are they, we know they're just, really to ease people's fears mainly. That's all they're for, really, as a psychological thing. And even the World Health has said that, they're not effective. And if anything, you carry bacteria. And if you're wearing a mask, and especially I see people wearing gloves. I mean, anyone who works in the medical field will tell you, you wear these things once, you take them off, you throw them away. Because if you're wearing them a lot, you are picking up more and spreading more germs around with them on, actually. So they're not supposed to be worn constantly all day. And if they're those bloody blue ones I see people wearing, your hands must be sweating like crazy wearing them things all day. So anyway, but that's how it seems. People, they're adopting these new ways. And I'm seeing a few more people, wearing masks and where I am and things like this. So people are beginning to, show others that this is the new norm, and like you say, it's the new abnormal. It's how many people actually go for it, like they will go with the trending. It's just to be interesting. And like
I was just going to say, I haven't changed what I do, and when I went out today, I had a couple of people step into the road to walk around me because I didn't try to avoid them. I didn't go, oh, there's somebody coming down the pavement, I better get 6 feet between me and them. No, I just went to walk past them, and they chose to literally step into the road to walk around me.
Yeah.
I smiled at them. I think I said hello to, she's one of the post women that works in the post office near me, and I said hello to her. No response, just that kind of frightened, like, oh.
Yeah, there's a lot of that. I've seen a lot of that. And public transport would be interesting, like I say, going forward, how they're going to try and separate people if they're going to try and do this nonsense of sitting apart.
How are they going to do schools when they claim that they're going to have the students socially distant? It's physical distancing, really. Social distancing is a bit of psychological NLP manipulation, because they're revealing to you what they're actually doing with this methodology. It's about separating you socially to make you feel isolated, to separate you from any sense of community or unity of any kind, because you're actually scared of everybody else.
Yeah. like the kids, like I say, you know, you see the rainbow pictures in the window and you think, wow, these kids have been, you know, their lives are going to be a lot different from what ours were like when this new school norm comes in, how they're going to, you know, teach them and do things with them. I always said it would be, well, maybe, well, it would work now, wouldn't it? Everybody out of work, homeschooling, you know, with the virtual reality headset. You know,
that probably will be one of the ways that they try to change the education system, because really when it comes down to it, that's what they want. No, I don't mean they want people homeschooling their own children and stuff like that. I mean, they want children being educated through a VR telecommunications setup. So your child will still be required to attend class that is done on a state-controlled curriculum system, but rather than going to a building, an institution, a school where they sit in a room with other students, no, they'll sit at home and they'll plug in and they'll be doing it from home via VR or internet link, whatever. And that's what they really want to happen. So again, you know, this whole situation feeds that Agenda 21, 2030 changeover that they're trying to do at the moment.
Yeah, they're going to bring up a very sort of disheartened bunch, because, you know, when you went to school yourself, what were you told when you were 10, 11, 12? What you're going to do, what you're going to be, you know, what, just stay at home and get universal credit, you know. That seems to be what they're pushing for.
I'm going to be an Instagram star.
Well,
look,
yeah,
I can push 200 Q-tips up my nose at once. Look, I'm going to be famous.
Yeah, because there'll be no jobs. Anyway, on a brighter note,
your job will be entertaining yourself.
Yeah, like an episode of that Black Mirror where they're on those bicycles and they're pedaling for 4 hours per day, or whatever,
and policing each other.
Yeah,
that will be your form of entertainment. You know, I mentioned a few times recently the Stanford prison experiment.
Yes.
And how a lot of what we're seeing happening in the society around us, as in people aggressing against each other and some people acting like little prefects where they're shouting at other people for not obeying the rules and shit like that. It's just like Stanford prison experiment.
Yeah,
you give people a sense of a little bit of authority and their own inner demons, basically, use that word just for simplicity, will rise to the top, and they'll start abusing others around them because they think they have authority from the government to do so.
Or in the workplace, because that's where you see it a lot. You know, we see that sort of structure really, or in a family even. You know, you get control. You know, someone who's you know ruling the family with an iron hand or whatever. But yeah, you'll get that. But that's, like I say, that psychological war you were talking about, and the war on us, the people. You know, that's something that I'm hoping people see a lot more of now. That's all with this happening now. Like that's so true. They really are, and people are not just. There's many people who thinking the same now. This is not normal. This is abnormal. You know, we're not adjusting to this crazy madness. This is madness. You know, and our children aren't going to adjust to that either. You know, we're going to, you know, and this is maybe the backfiring bit. You know, where people do not obey. We don't become the order follower. We're not obedient to a government that's corrupt, lies, and deceitful, and all the rest of it.
It's another example of how a lot of the methodologies that they use are deliberately structured and targeted to attack you on your best elements. You know, they use your best traits against you. So I think this is true for the majority of people. But the public, you know, people out there don't want to hurt other people. So if they're told that, well, merely by being near somebody, you're potentially causing them harm, you could potentially kill them, most people, being of good intent, of good heart, think, oh, well, you know, I don't want to endanger other people, so I better stay at home then, hadn't I? I'm doing a good deed by staying at home. So they're using your good sensibilities, your good moral conduct, your good heart against you. Do you see what I mean? Yeah.
Yeah.
Whereas in reality, if you bother to spend the time and energy looking at the information and seeing through the bullshit, etc., the reality is that by separating ourselves in this way, the way they're telling us we have to, we're actually doing harm to more people than the virus, if it even exists, will do. I recommend, I actually favorited it earlier because I thought he was bang on with the way he says it. Larkin Rose put up a video yesterday. It was probably a bit sort of lost in the melee of all the fucking David Icke shit that everybody was so excited about. It's called Shutdowns, Pointless, Stupid and Evil. Hang on, if I can grab the link to it, I'll stick it in the chat box. I recommend you have a listen to it because it makes a really good argument without descending into, like I was trying to describe earlier, without descending into the arguing over the details of if there is or isn't a virus and what it does or doesn't do, etc., etc. He just makes the argument based purely on the reality of the effect that the shutdown of global society will have. And it is going to cause more casualties in the long run than the virus has or will.
Yeah, yes.
You're talking literally millions of people around the world, potentially hundreds of thousands of people are going to die. Millions of people are going to be affected. They already are being affected. You know, we've talked about this in recent weeks. You know, you think of all the businesses that have ended up shutting down, people are losing their jobs, homes being at risk because they can't pay the mortgage or the rent, etc., etc., etc. There's going to be more damage caused by the so-called solution, but those in the shadows that are manipulating this shit don't give a fuck about that fact. Yeah, because as far as they're concerned, we're just all cattle. So if they need to cull the herd a bit to get the job done that they're trying to do, so be it. They'll do that quite happily. They don't care about us. They don't care about you or me or whatever. But he makes a really good argument in that video. So, you know, if you know people that are sort of like, oh, you can't go out, you're endangering people. It's like, you haven't really thought about it, have you, mate? You just accepted the fear that you've been told by the media that is spouting the government official bullshit, and you've been terrorized and you've been tricked by that manipulation of your own good sensibilities of not wanting to put others at risk or in harm. And you've been manipulated in that way, but you can't think beyond the fear, and the fear is shutting you down. So
yeah, that's the main one, the fear. I mean, like I say, well adjusted to the madness, but mainly fear. You know, not disobeying either, when put in a position where or if I did disobey, then the policeman might come up and tell me off. It's that programming, isn't it? It's like, and then when you look at what you can and can't do, and like you say, how they've used the NLP and on us to confuse deliberately all of this, so-called legislation, what you can and can't do. It's interesting, isn't it? And then those who we've seen online push it. Some of these videos could be set up, I don't know. But end up getting arrested. I know there was a protest yesterday in Glastonbury, in the main town. There was Piers Corbyn was there, Jeremy Corbyn's older brother, the climate scientist guy. And there was a little article on the Mail, I read it earlier on, saying that there'd been a couple of arrests, but didn't say if he'd been arrested or not. So not sure what was going on there, but they were doing a protest against the lockdown, and and the way that the press were saying all these things about Lincoln. He's saying like everybody the conspiracy theorist is saying that everyone's going to be chipped. Like there's this agenda to chip everyone on the planet and blah, blah, blah. And I'm glad they're doing all this, because it is, even though they're trying to call everybody crazy, that is actually what they are doing. And they're doing their damnedest to get everybody trace database in whatever shape, form they can do it. They've already got it wrapped up to a certain degree, and certainly this COVID or this pandemic will help them achieve that more and more and more, by people willingly now just being, queuing up for, traceability.
Yeah.
You know, just to be traced. And you know, willingly get millions will be doing that. So it's almost like, you know, they're quite happy with that. But those of us who don't, you know, we'll see what we do. You know, what happens.
Yeah. Well, if they tell me I've got to wear a bracelet or some shit like that, if they order me to do it, then I more than likely will, but it's not going to stop me doing what I normally do. I may end up, if it comes to it, getting arrested or whatever, because I'm in breach of some kind of rule that they've implemented. But we'll see what happens as it goes along.
Yeah.
Yeah.
There's still, I mean, even though there's those on that side who think this is all great, there's a big group of doctors, lawyers, scientists who don't think it's great.
Yeah.
So there's just the one side we're getting at the moment, and that's good. That's heartening, really, because, like I say, the mainstream media full of shit every day of the week. I know we talk about the stories, and that's why I do on the reality chat, because it's just to point out the ridiculousness and the way it programs and manipulates its audience. And that's what it's done. That's what it's designed for. It's bought and paid for by the big, you know, few, you know, and they will just tell you a load of shit. So remember, there's the good guys still. They do exist. They are there, and they haven't been given a platform yet, but it will come. And
please remember that even though I was complaining about the fact that London Real did their kind of PR marketing trickery on people, there is still the reality there that shows that you are not alone in thinking that this is all bullshit and is abnormal, because there are now literally hundreds of thousands of people, more than there was last year, that are willing to at least listen to speakers like David Icke and others, you know, that are questioning the official narrative and pointing out the inconsistencies and the flaws and the fallacies in their arguments, etc. What the system is doing by cracking down in this fashion is actually opening the door for so many more people to begin that pathway of questioning and starting reconnecting with themselves, finding themselves and seeing reality for what it is. So, you know, don't feel that, you know, you're the crazy one that thinks crazy things and the TV keeps telling you something different. That's because the TV is propaganda.
Yeah.
It's trying to mold your perception. It's trying to amplify the fear to blah, blah, blah. You know, I've been saying it for however long. But, you know, think about that. The reality is that some people out there donated hundreds of thousands of pounds to that company, London Real, so that they could live stream David Icke to hundreds of thousands of people. So that proves that you're not alone in thinking that this is all bullshit.
Yeah.
The more you chat with people, the more you speak out, you find that there's a lot of people out there that are seeing this for what it is. They may not all agree on everything. They may not all be on the same or at the same place in their thinking or know all the different bits and bobs and details. And that's not the point, but they've still got enough cognitive liberty to be able to turn around and go, hang on, this ain't right. I don't like this. This is abnormal, what they're telling to me. I ain't doing this. No. It is a major divergence point. And if we just keep going along with everything that they suggest, then we are going to be descending into that crazy dystopian nightmare. And you've got a chance now to, in a way, to make your vote. Yeah, this is like a big vote on how the world is going to be in the coming decades and centuries. Normally, I don't get involved in voting, but this is not really a vote. You know, I'm just using it as like a metaphor. It's your chance, your opportunity to stake your vote, to reclaim that crown for yourself.
Yeah, and one thing I would add to the other people we've been mentioning, the other what do I call them? People saying stuff. Don't get sucked into cult of personality and guru following and this type of thing, because that's what causes a lot of the problems in the bloody first place. You know, it's what we're saying. No, You know, it's you. It's not that they just deliver. They're vehicles to deliver information. Yeah, that's what we are. You know, we people. It's the same with the rock band and the pop star. It's that kind of. We've got to start to grow up. Yeah, it's a growing up process. You know,
I am not anybody else's leader. I am not your guru. I am not your authority.
Yeah.
It's something you've got to stop doing, because we all do it to a certain degree, and part of the awakening process is realizing that you're giving your power away to somebody else. Stop doing that.
Yeah.
If you're really struggling with the fear factor kind of element of this situation, is a little bit saccharine for many people, and there's some stuff that he talks about that I don't agree with, but on the psychological element and dealing with that fear side of things, I'd recommend Ralph Smart's Infinite Waters. Yeah, and even more so at the moment, because recently I haven't looked at his stuff for ages, but I tuned back in again recently because he's actually been speaking out against the bullshit. And he's got 1.7 million subscribers. He gets tens of thousands of viewers on his videos, guaranteed, every time he puts up a video. And he has been calling it out. Yeah, he's been calling it out as a scam. He's been talking about the kind of psychological manipulation, playing on people's fears, things like that. And he's got a really good way, I think, of helping people ground themselves and, you know, getting out of that kind of fear mentality and seeing the bullshit for what it is. So just as a recommendation, if people are struggling with that kind of thing, you find it difficult to deal with the ideas because they're too scary and whatever, go and have a listen to his stuff. You know, he's got a good way of putting the information across without it being all doom and gloom. Yeah, I've got a kind of personality that can be quite cynical and sarcastic. So I get it. I understand why some people think I'm doom saying, you know, I'm talking about all the doom stuff. It's not at all. It's just I prefer to see things for what they are so that I can better deal with them. You can't deal with a situation until you can see it for what it is. You can't heal a problem until you can see the problem, admit to the problem, etc.
Yeah. And I'd also say avoid the sheep dip and dodgy salesman.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You don't have to buy the truth. Yeah, the truth is there. The truth will always be there. Yes, you can buy stuff from people that will help you see it or will help you find it or help you think about it, etc., etc. And there's lots of great people out there that put out content or write books or make documentaries, etc., that can fulfill that for you. Yeah, and it's good to support people that do that kind of thing, because everybody needs to be able to buy their pasty. You know, you got to be able to afford to buy a pasty now and then. But you know, I'm making a joke out of it. But I know people get what the point I'm trying to make. Yeah, you don't have to pay for the truth, but if you choose to buy products that help you with that, there's nothing wrong with doing that. Just don't get exploited by con men and fucking snake oil salesmen. Yeah.
Yes.
So anyway, I think, what time is it? Yeah, it is about time. So I'll wrap it up. I'm sorry, everybody in the chat. I could see the chat scrolling back past quite a lot. I'm sorry I didn't dip into the chat. I'm sure there would have been lots of great comments and links, etc., that people are putting in. I know YouTube doesn't allow in general for people to put links in, but sometimes there's ways around it, and there's people who are moderators that can put links in for us. So thank you again for joining in the chat. Dino, hello. Hope you're all right, mate. I think I said hello to you lot. Sonia White, hello. You cannot worship God and Mammon. Yeah. You cannot be a dual citizen in this reality. You can choose to disbelieve if you want, but you know, the reality is still there, whether you choose to believe if it was created by some other entity or not. It's still there. So I think I said hello to you. Mr. Jones, hello. I'm trying to just quickly scan read some of the comments so I can see if you're actually talking about sensible stuff, which, you know, you talk about what you talk about. Hopefully it's sensible, but I suppose I'm just on the lookout for the arseholes spouting shit.
No, it's been good. It's been good tonight, Cookie. I've had it open on this side, so it's been
cool.
All good.
Yeah, I've had a lot less patience, well, near enough zero patience and tolerance for the bullshit now. There's no more time for that kind of, I think it's childish. There's no more time for that shit now. I'm not saying people can't have opposing points of view and whatever, but it's how you present them. It's how you have the debate that's important, not just that you disagree is wrong. It's not. It's people deliberately trying to be derogatory or to interfere with what's going on or to disrupt what's happening, etc. That I have no tolerance for anymore. They can bug off. Ridiculous. Hello. Sorry, I'm still scrolling down quick. Cheris, hello, Cheris Rosin. Like a car filter blockage. I'm not sure what you're referring to. A strain on the heart, yeah. And Taz is in the chat. Thanks, Taz. I know you've been putting links in. Thanks for doing that. I think I've said hello to everyone. If I've missed you out, I'm sorry. Like I said, I wasn't paying much attention to the chat this week, and it was scrolling past quite quick, so I'm glad that people were interacting, because that's really what it comes down to at the moment. Well, they're trying to sell us one version of reality. Yeah. There's plenty of us out here to look and say, no, that's bullshit. You know, hang on, just share it one more time. I think it's quite appropriate to finish up with. Your government recommends the new normal. It masks the stench of tyranny. And James, hello, James, chat room ninja just jumped in at the end there. Thank you. Hello, mate. Yeah, don't believe the bullshit. Don't buy the tin of shite guard. It won't work. It won't help you. When they say masks the smell of something, that means it's not actually getting rid of it. It's just making you think it's not there, but it's still there. Anyway, yeah. Be back again on Wednesday night on the Reality Chat channel. I know there's some of the links that Taz was sharing, like news articles and stuff about Bill Gates. We can maybe dig into them on Wednesday a bit. And Steve should be on Thursday night on the mystery show. And, you know, there's plenty of other stuff out there. Raconteurs, he's looking for a new presenter. So if you're interested, go and, you know, get in touch with them. And there's plenty of other stuff out there. Please check out other content. I have now created a new playlist on my channel called My Liked Videos, because I think I mentioned this a few weeks ago.
Yeah, I'm going to have to do the same, actually. Yeah, I keep forgetting to do it. Yeah.
YouTube has now blocked public view of your liked videos list. So in the past, when we used to, like, you go and look at somebody's channel and go, oh, what kind of videos are they into? And you look down their liked list and it show you what they've been thumbing up, you know, what videos they've thumbed up. You can't do that anymore because they've blocked it. So instead, I've made up a separate playlist called My Liked Videos. And whenever I thumb up a video, I add it to that playlist. And please remember, just like I said about I'm not your leader, please remember that just because I thumb a video up or put a thumbs up on it does not mean I 100% agree or endorse the video or love the video. I might have just thumbs it up because I think there's something on there, an argument or a bit of information that's worth people seeing and discussing and talking about, etc. Just because I give it a thumbs up doesn't mean I completely endorse something. Yeah. We should all be able to do that. Hopefully, you should do this, you should do that. But I think you get the point. Yeah, the system likes us to have leaders because then they can attack the leader. I didn't mention this at the time, but just as a sort of extra note, I think that possibly might be why they've been positioning Ike the way they have, because the media quite happily jumped all over him recently. So he's going to become the figurehead fall guy for the infodemic and the danger of conspiracy theorists. Yeah, even though that term itself is NLP fucking bullshit manipulation, but that is how it will be played in the media. They will amplify him and they'll misrepresent what he talks about and the information and the arguments he makes, etc. But they'll use him as a figurehead to label all of us under the same shitty stick. Yeah, and they'll gradually push him off the internet and they'll gradually shut all us down because we're all talking bad things according to their bullshit. We shall see in the coming weeks and months. But thanks again, folks, for joining us. Keep thinking, keep exercising your cognitive liberty, and time to decide if you want that crown for yourself or not. And we'll see you again soon. Don't believe the bullshit. It masks the stench of tyranny. Thanks for joining, right?
Cheers, Cookie. Cheers, all in the chat as well.
We'll click the button. Cut cheese. Cut cheese.